afternoon. Welcome to all of you. To those watching online, I would like to welcome as well, and also warm welcome to the participants of this panel, New Opportunities Responding to Sectorized Challenges in Cybersecurity. We need to remember the theme chosen for this conference, which is the cybersecurity as a pillar for digital transformation. And we are facing many challenges at business level. We're experiencing many changes, especially creating new business models, and also from a point of view of technology, with the proliferation of new emerging technologies in regards to cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a pillar, is a fundamental pillar for this change. We are seeing everyday threats and attacks that are leveraging this change. We see that they are exploiting vulnerabilities of the Internet of Things. We see new vectors in the supply chain. We see the use of blockchain in botnet, and we have the presence of ransomware and cryptocurrency mining. So there is higher demand in security, with new needs in the context of cybersecurity. We have new challenges that the market has not yet addressed. We see new opportunities for entrepreneurship in the context of cybersecurity. Without further ado, I would like to welcome and introduce the participants of the panel. They will describe the threats that they are experiencing in their sector. First of all, I will introduce Jordi Águila. He is the Director of ICT Security in CaixaBank, and he's also a PhD in computer architecture and has more than 20 years experience in cybersecurity. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to tell you that I work in CaixaBank because I created a startup in the domain sector. This was many years ago, and CaixaBank bought my company, my startup, and I became integrated in the CaixaBank structure. I'm basically the guy who invents things there. So I brought you a small presentation where I will explain to you some of the issues that we deal with. This is the context, and we can see what changes have happened in the bank sector. We had concerns in perimeter, and we can see that nowadays we need to coordinate intelligence, and we can see how we need to achieve prevention. This change is very relevant because we live in a world of alliances, and in a world of AI, and in a world of intelligence. Everything else have become commodities that are not of our concern, because the level of fraud is almost inexisting. This is a risk map is updated, and you can see that our concerns, and there's more likeness of probability of threats is the things on the right-hand side. We've been applying controls throughout the years. The bank sector was one of the first ones to receive attacks, and things on the left-hand side are not so important. So what are we doing now? Security control of payment cards. In this field, we are applying PCI standards, and then we have DLP, which controls the information that comes from within outside. What we can do is to invest in the field of new technologies, the new methods of payments. We FSC, the terms of distance. There is opportunity for investment in terms of the control of methods of payment. We can see that it's very interlinked to the previous. What we do is to develop control tools. These tools are usually created by the market through internal processes because they are adapted to the actual entity, and in other cases it's outsourced together with the company that works in CaixaBank. And what we try to do is to create rules that at the moment of truth stops the fraud before the money reaches the hacker. What we want to do is to close that window as soon as possible. We work in forensics in malware as well. And something that really helps us is the creation of intelligence related to these systems. In mobile devices attacks, well, this is a field where there is much to do at the moment. There's different OSs, the platforms are different, there is no effectiveness in terms of antiviruses and the existing systems. So what we do is to have our own APPs and securize them and secure them. And the hackers are trying to do social engineering with our customers, and we try to stop them. And a field that it's basically starting out is biometrics authentication, which is very important. We need to authenticate the customer, and also the use of different channels. We're investing, and there will be novelties in the market in this regard. Protection of pay points. We have the ELP systems, the perimeter systems such as antivirus. And then something that it's newer, I've been told to focus on this topic, and it's the red teaming. You can see the international definition in my slide, but the red teaming, what makes it different in terms of other attacks is that at the end the hacker wants to extract the information from the organization. The intrusion tests only give some confidential information, and then by contract we limit this from going beyond. The red teaming needs to extract information and needs to be ready to do this, and this is the great difference. When you sit down with the blue team, the IT security team, and you talk to them about strengthening the perimeter, they mention this. This is not working. So the red teaming in CaixaBank is mixed, and that's where the possibilities lie. Because on the one hand, we talk about talent, which at the end of the day are people. If you hire them from external sources, you cannot allow them to reach a certain level of information because sometimes the controls are very high. So we've tried to separate the people from the perimeter and the people from IT security. So because sometimes you attack yourself and you haven't done anything. And then the important part what we look for in the market is talent, intelligence, imagination, loyalty. But loyalty comes with time. But it's very important because otherwise the red teams become very endogamic. It's the same people with the same ideas all the time, and there is a limit to that. So the way of creating growth in red teaming is is to have people from outside and create those mixed teams to make some progress. We'll show you a couple of things that we do. I know we don't have much time, but this is a Wi-Fi attack around the buildings of CaixaBank to see if we were vulnerable. We never say the result, obviously, because it's confidential, but what we did was to find a vehicle that was not suspicious, that could be close to a building that is controlled by armed people with lots of alarms, and we wanted something very innocent. We developed this to find the Wi-Fi at 360 degrees. You can see the antennas here, and they move around until they find the best position to find the Wi-Fi. And then we looked for vulnerabilities in the Wi-Fi, and that's all I can say. This is another example. I won't let the video play because I don't have much time. And this is the second example. A red team. Well, it's very difficult to hire. We did an intrusion test. We created a completely anonymous structure on the internet, like attackers do. We got bitcoins. We hired servers in the dark net. We prepared a Trojan and then some bait, which was the most important, because 80% of social engineering is to create an ad hunter on the internet. If you looked on the website, you could find anything. And we looked on LinkedIn who was using LinkedIn, and then we launched a warning and said we found a profile, we're a job hunting company, and we received lots of answers, obviously, and we went to the web page and we displayed a message from Adobe saying that they needed an update, and those clicking for the update got infected, and then it was the next of the attack, the rest of the attack, which I obviously cannot tell you about. Thank you very much, Jordi. Now we give the floor to Jordi Muñoz. He is the director of cybersecurity of Jacinto. I'm sorry. He is engineer of telecommunications from the Polytechnic University of Madrid. His master's by the SIC, and he's a teacher. He's got the CISA and CISA-CP qualification, and he's a teacher of the Cybersecurity Masters at EE of the ISMS Forum. In 2006, he worked in Telefónica R&D, Anderson, and Third Point Jacinto. Well, first of all, thank you very much for the opportunity for me to be here, and thank you for the brave ones that are here in this forum. I know we're not too many, but we're the best. And well, I've prepared these in a bit of in a different way. I was trying to see if to think like someone who wanted to do entrepreneurship in cybersecurity, and see what are the improvement areas, areas that maybe have not been covered, or maybe there's things that have been done in a way that is not working, and there's some friction. So at the end, maybe the user experience is not good, and then me as a user maybe change it and do it differently. Maybe we should go a bit beyond from the point of view of challenges. Well, cybersecurity challenges are those given by the environment. There is a growing threat, there is more regulatory pressure, and maybe you work with a company that is working on digital transformation. So cybersecurity is a core element. We cannot talk about a cybersecurity transformation if there is a product that is not safe. In terms of digital transformation and digital channels, I think there is an element that it's very clear to all of us, and it's digital identity. Everything revolves around the digital identity. If we could have one that it's unique within and outside our company, with solid authentication and with a good user experience, maybe we should pursue it. And we're working on this, and there is room for improvement. Also, the interaction with the customer in terms of the digital transformation. Well, when the customer wants it, we will want to interact with him through digital channels. So we need to be able to validate the information that the customer is providing to ascertain that it's them, and now no one is stealing their identity. But if we talk about the insurance sector, for example, if there's been an accident, I have to be able to see if the accident reporting is true, that the photo that they send is not manipulated, and this information that is exchanged between the customer and the company, then I see that there is room for improvement and some challenges. Something now more basic, that is more company related to those who work in cybersecurity. I see lots of room of improvement in terms of raising awareness. We want to protect our company, and we have the mission to raise awareness amongst our employees and the people that interact with us. And the mechanisms that we have in place today are very similar to the mechanisms that we use in other contexts. So the user is a bit fed up for being told 7 times that they have to change the password, that they have to be careful with phishing in their emails. We have to be able to define something that allows these continuous training and information that we have to do, that we have to give our employees and our customers. We have to make it more agile, more dynamic, and it has to be more targeted, more appealing. Maybe in terms of gamification, there are solutions, but I can't really see a good one, to see something that is being thought for the user, because it has to be something appealing and valuable for them, also from the point of view of cybersecurity professionals. And I'm talking here from a personal point of view. Well, I'm giving you my opinion. So we have many tools and many possibilities to know what the vulnerabilities are in our infrastructures and what controls have been deployed, their efficacy, to know the threats that we're facing. But we need to have these all it needs to be comprehensive, it needs to be easily mappable with the regulatory requirements, with the customer's needs. So what I'm picturing here is a puzzle that it's made of many pieces, and it's a bit difficult. So it's the professional of cybersecurity that needs to be able to constantly see what the level of security is at the moment, improve it, report the needs, and be able to know about the requirements of the customers and the legal requirements. And from the point of view of the insurance sector, we have cyber risks, and I think we need to work on the different mechanisms to know what's the security level of a company. So if I'm going to insure a company, I would like to know what their level of security is, because I will insure them on this matter. And this is very complex, because we have companies of different sizes, but because of their business, they need an information system. So I need to be able to assess in a reliable way in an easy way, where there's no friction with the assessed, so that the update is simple, and I need to be able to assess their security level. And I'm talking about customers of cyber risks products, but these could be applied to other actors in the supply chain. We also have to take care of the control of accumulations. I have a portfolio of insured companies that could be cars or households in the future, and I have to control that there is no event that creates multiple risk when there is a cyber hurricane. I need to know what's the position of my portfolio, and I need to be able to anticipate and know that maybe I'm assuming too many risks that could be triggered by one simple event. So I have to see what the features of my clients are from a technological point of view, what's happened in the past in terms of incidents, but I need to know what's happening in the present in terms of vulnerability, links, tools from different agencies. So we have to unite all these to be able to know what the risk is. Well, I think it's interesting, and it's an element that needs to be worked on, and it's very specific from the sector.
Thank you very much, Jacinto. Now we go with Juan Carlos Gómez. He's a Global Director of Cyber Intelligence and Cyber Threats Control and Responses from Telefónica. He is engineer from the Polytechnic University of Madrid with a master in from the ES Business School. And for more than 20 years, he has exclusively dedicated to cybersecurity with responsibility roles in different companies. Also, he's a professor in several cybersecurity masters. Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon. First of all, I want to thank the organization for inviting me, and especially for being in this round table, which I hope it helps to put together the needs of the private companies. From my point of view, what are the drivers or challenges that I see that are driving the demands of cybersecurity? First of all of those things that are related to analysis of cybersecurity. So, for example, to get to know cyber threats, who wants to harm us, and also to get to know how they work, the headhunting. These solutions that should help us to know the TTP of the actors, which infrastructure do they have, and minimize the detecting time of the infrastructure. As a second field, it's the fulfillment of the GDPR, GFDR. So encrypting, discovery, all those things are going to have a very important role here. This is something that we have had for a long time, but recently I have seen these solutions as not very useful for the user. So they should be reinvented to be under the use of the user, not the technology, so the user can embrace them for their own use. And I think there is something to research here. Another important issue that I consider, and it has to do with the services chain, and it has to do with the chip that has been discovered in certain surveys. It's something very important, something that worries everybody, the governments, and in Europe, because there's even some rules and regulations coming out regarding to it, and these should go together with the technological solutions for supervising the supply chain for those technology consumers. And the fourth point that I consider interesting is the technologies for detecting anomalies. And why do I consider this interesting? Because now we have all these critical infrastructures, and one of the most feared things is the insider. That's it, the operator that is working those infrastructures, and how do we know what is he doing and if he's doing it right? Because all these technologies can help to detect early those anomalies, and we cannot forget about this. It's the IoT explosion. It's a very important driver in this sector, and one of the important things here is to use technology to help the problems of the world, solutions specific for the biotech world. And this is something that we are seeing and we'll see for a long time. And I know that we have very little time, but I want to say that about the future is important too, and quantum computation is something to be considered, because it's going to break with all the paradigms. Another thing is the massive learning. I don't know any product that doesn't have a leaflet about this, but then nobody uses it. So for 2025, all the products should have a massive learning information. Today is not like this, at least not for every product, and this is something interesting to explore for the future, because the massive learning is not a solution for all the problems, but there are many specific cases that can be in which this can be used. And lastly, to finish, the dissuasion technologies. It's not the damage that I can do to you if you attack me. It's the technologies that increase the cost of the attackers. And this is all for me. Thank you. Thank you, Juan Carlos. And finally, we're going to allow now Francisco Lázaro, Chief Information Security Officer of Renfe. Also, he works for the EFF Forum. He is a telecommunications engineer, and he is president of the Quality and Security Group of Utensil and vice president of ADEL, and he's an expert in several committees of normalization. He's also professor of different courses and university masters regarding information security. So the best and the worst thing of being the last one is that everything has been already said. They have mentioned all the main points. And when you said that I am accredited for cybersecurity, I would love that was already in place. I have some questions. Some of them have come out already. One of them is the lack of professionals or experts in cybersecurity. One of the things that come out of needs come from there. We don't have as many experts as we would like. And for example, in my case, I've seen that there's a huge lack of experts in the cloud services, especially the development of BOPs and all the projects in the cloud. I think that's a very strong point with lacking needs. We need specialists in IoT, in robotic and technology, and we also need experts in very specific areas, because up to now, most of them, or most of us, were useful for almost everything. So cybersecurity experts could work in very different sectors, for example, in the transport sector or in telecommunications. And it is true that more and more we're going to need specialists for each sector. So, for example, in the transportation area, for example, trains and signaling, we are lacking experts too. Also, we are lacking hybrids experts. So, for example, when we talk about data protection, we talk about lawyers or things like that. So we need hybrid profiles, lawyers with skills on technology and can translate those needs to different areas. And those that are working in technologies should have some legal knowledge to be able to understand each other, because they speak in different languages, but they must understand each other. So if we take a look at the sanction that a company has received because of their security measures, it's important because in many cases, the companies just focused on the articles and the rights and the rules, but not so much or not as importantly as they should on the measurements that actually protect the data. So that's why we need hybrid experts to protect data and technical issues. But also, for example, for the medical or the healthcare area, we need doctors that are interested in security of the information, and then we need experts in the information technology that are interested about the healthcare. So when we talk about all those millions of devices that are going to be connected to the internet on the 2020, many of them are going to help us in our lives, but also to help us in our lives and our health and everything. So we need security experts also in that area. We need to incorporate privacy in the design. So all those that are in charge of developing products should have very clear that the privacy and security is a priority for them. Also, let's talk about mechanizing and industrializing defense. We are registering per day 600 million of events. More and more, we need to mechanize the defense, the identification of these events, but also how to apply a collective intelligence for the information to be very rich, and we don't have to go to 7, 8 different sources to find the information. And then some work is needed in these things where we look really bad, and these are the things that add complexity to the user. So things, for example, like authentication. We need very strong authentication system, but that are also friendly for the user, and also the privacy of the for the information, but something that is also friendly for the user. And then all the behavior analysis, which is also very important. I'm sorry about how fast I just mentioned this. Thank you very much, Francisco. So the reality is that we have very little time for some questions, if you have any. Yes, there's one question, one very fast question. Well, first of all, thank you very much for your involvement and for showing all these challenges. I wanted to ask, because it related with the next panel, is that we have created many challenges, but then in practice, because all the problems and issues, we really don't have so many initiatives that can confront these challenges. So which models do you know that are working as a transference model, cooperation models? Because yes, there are technological centers, there are concept tests, there's more visibility. Then why there is not a good offer and demand link? And if it is, how can it dynamized even more? What is your experience on this? Who wants to comment on this? I can talk about this. So I think we need a trust framework, because when you're going to buy or use the technology of a startup, it's not only the technology, it's also the support for many years for that technology. And sometimes, because the startup, because they don't have the payment support, disappears. So then you end up hung up with this. So you have to trust on their technology, and you have to trust their financial model, and you have to trust that that company is going to keep being alive for a long time. So today, I think that just as we put our money in a bank and we trust that the bank is going to keep on going because it can be rescued, so why don't we create something similar for the startups, an instrument to rescue them, so in case that you need to change your technology, you can rely on this. We need that. Also, we need a financing framework. We are very good at financing a venture capital, but then when the company is big, we are not capable of going with it. And then the company is there to sell their technology and their company to the US. And I hope with this I have answered your question. So if I can add something, there was a time that in ESADE we studied the risk factors that made the spin-out and spin-offs would come from the university, and or companies could go on in time. You can search for this in the references. But one of the main factors is that the company was a mixture. Let's see if I can explain this. We, as technicians, have very good ideas, but we don't always have the company skills or the business skills for that to endure in time long enough for the company to get bigger or to use external capital for the business going on. So sometimes it's not only how fast you sell the product, but also you need some business skills and some engineering of the business. So one of the main factors was this. You have an inventor together with someone that had that business spirit, and that would guarantee quite well the survival of the company for it to get big in the market. The accelerators that all the companies are creating, that is also an important point. And it is also a place to listen. What we said before about tools and about awareness. So, for example, the phishing campaigns, we are all doing it. So having tools for phishing, for smarting phishing, so that you don't have to design it, but because it grows on itself and it learns on itself and it develops. It exists in other countries, but in Spanish, in Spain, there's a need of this product. So it's not really expensive, but we need to listen on the needs, and it's not only that you have a great idea, but that you have the capability of listening what the market is demanding. So thank you, Francisca. Well, just one more thing for me in the same line. So, for example, INCIBE, it's an element that can help a lot on that transaction. I have received entrepreneurs that you have brought to me. So probably you can be the bridge between us and these companies, and this will make that everything much easier in the future. And I think that in that sense we are in the proper line. Well, thank you very much, Jacinto, and all the speakers. We are out of time. I'm sure there's very many questions. So perhaps in the short breaks you can approach them and ask them. And just to comment some of the challenges, remember the red team vision, the need to strengthen the digital identity, also the cyber risks in the insurance area, also the need of a cyber intelligence that is more actionable, the need of technology to the compliance of rules and regulations, and especially the protection of data, being aware of the challenges that are presented in the supply chains, quantum computation, machine learning, dissuasion technologies, and also the need of experts in cybersecurity that are specialized in the different technologies, the cloud, robotic, and also the need of hybrid profiles to confront all these challenges that we are finding out. And thank you very much for coming here today.